Hello and welcome to Chapter 2 of World's Longest Suicide Note. And first of all, I'm Roger, and beyond being suicidal, I am not a mental health professional or your life coach or anything where I would have any authority over you whatsoever. So grain of salt on all this stuff. That's my legal disclaimer. I don't know anything. Anyway, so today we are going to talk a little bit about my first diagnosis, my first mental health diagnosis. So when I was 13, I think I mentioned, when I was 13, I started seeing things. And let me back up a minute here. Let me paint a picture, not an actual painted picture, but let's beautiful summer day, not quite super warm. I was wearing pants, and I know that because one of the things that I remember was that I was wearing my corduroy pants. And I don't know why that's a memory of this day, but there's these kind of tan corduroy pants, and they were the ones that, not today with the like stretchy materials and comfortable and stylish. These were like the old school, actual made out of rope. It's like there was rope tied together, then made into pants, and they weren't. I was always a big kid, so they were always tight. And when I was 13, I was having like erections all the time. I mean, all the time. Oh, the J.C. Penney's catalog. Oh, that's going to be uncomfortable. Anyway, I'm digressing. That's what I do. But I remember wearing those corduroy pants, and I'm laying there under. We had in the backyard. Some of the grass was like, it was weird. We had it was almost like it was a grass. I got paint on my sweatshirt. I'm not supposed to paint in this sweatshirt. Yeah, hang on a second. I've trained myself. Oh, never mind. I got paper towels and some water. I can't have good things. I can't have nice things because this is what happens. I'm wiping down I got paint on my sweatshirt. I don't know how. I get paint everywhere. I don't think it's good things. Anyway. All right. Are we okay? Yes, we're fine. All right. So we're talking about my erections when I was 13. And the corduroy pants that were uncomfortable. But other than that, it was a beautiful day. Underneath the luscious grass in the yard was under the apple trees. Two big old apple trees, big canopies. And it was very pleasant just to hang out and watch the birds and really do not a lot of anything. So, and that's what I was doing. And then all of a sudden I felt something. I felt somebody watching me. There was something off. I mean, it's the first time I've really ever been aware, but I just felt like there was somebody watching me or something going on. In the movies, they would change, the music would change and it would get a little more ominous and you'd kind of have an idea. But I mean, I didn't have that. I stood up and I looked around and I saw this dark entity thing, and I didn't know a lot of words back then. It was like this, there was glass between, someone had smudged oil or something on the glass, and it was just there, but just floating there. And I was frozen solid. I couldn't move. And I don't know if I couldn't move because I couldn't process what was going on, or it had some kind of hold on me, whatever. I mean, I was powerless. it was like a dream when, you can't, you're in quicksand or something and you're just stressed out and you can't, and you're going to die. It was those kind of feelings. But I just stood there and it seemed like it took 3 hours. I mean, it took probably 3 minutes. But I just remember, and it was such a profound experience. And then I had to get over it, because then when it left, I was just sitting there wondering what the heck had happened. What I knew for certain is I felt it in my heart and soul. I saw things in my mind all of a sudden, and it was very, very, very traumatic. And I wanted nothing more than to run into the house and tell my mom, and my dad was at work, but say, what the heck is going on? Satan has showed up, and he's after me. And because at the time, I mean, that's what I thought it was. But then, of course, being a church person, I realized, at that point, it's like, oh, this probably means that there's something wrong with me. Anyway, so, like, my favorite thing to do is I said nothing to nobody. I just went on. My mom did notice that there was something off about me, but then again, I'm also a 13-year-old boy popping boners every 5 seconds in his corduroy pants complaining. Anyway, enough with the pants. Nobody wants to hear about your corduroy pants. So anyway, and that went on. So I got through that first day, and then nothing the second day. No visitors. I mean, other than dark thoughts that were now a thing that I was starting to experience. And, there's a feeling, and what is it? They say it's umami or something, like in Japan, for this taste that you really can't explain. They call it umami. I don't know. I've never experienced it. But it's that kind of thing. You really can't explain it, so they just gave it a name. And this is exactly how I was feeling. I can't really explain in words what it was like to go through that. I mean, I couldn't explain it to myself, and I was like there. So it's really hard. So the idea that, a lot of times when folks, you ask, well, how are you, or what's going on, what's in your mind, what are you thinking right now? Oh, nothing, I'm fine. But it may not be that they're fine or there's nothing problem, or it may be that. But at the end of the day, it may be that they don't have the first idea how to tell somebody what they're feeling. How do you quantify that? How do you describe that? Something that is so profound yet so unique to just you. So anyway, I would see this apparition thing in random places. The second time it happened, I was in a grocery store by the egg section, and it happened, and again, I thought I was standing there forever and nobody noticed, and it seemed like the lights even dimmed, and it was just this tunnel vision of me and this thing. And it went on like that for a period of time, and I got really good at a poker face, so to speak, meaning that people could tell generally that there was something. I mean, you don't spend too much time around me to know that there's something off at some point, and so it was a traumatic thing that happened regularly, and it's like anything else. It's amazing what a person can get used to, what they can accept as just part of life, So, and that's kind of how it went for years until I was diagnosed. And even in the diagnosis, I wasn't fully honest with the psychiatrist when he was giving, I was kind of dumbing it down a little bit or sugarcoating it to a degree because it was way worse than I was saying, but what I was saying was enough to get that diagnosis. And so, nothing, what came out of that diagnosis, again, beyond the stigma of finally, okay, here you are, you're broken, take these pills. And of course, not just take pills, but go see somebody. But it was really, at that point, it wasn't very compassionate. It was like, okay, the DSM, I think at that time it was the DSM-4. So, they say, okay, here's your what's going on. Here's your diagnosis. Here's what you do about it. It wasn't like, hey, you're a unique person, and this is how you're made, but you're going to have some issues with this thing, and we should build in some supports around you. Now, it was like, okay, what's wrong? Take these pills. It's going to be fine. It was a far different time back then. And so I found it best to say thank you. Oh, I'm feeling great. And honestly, not say anything else about it. Because I didn't want to be broken. And people didn't really want to deal with it because nobody knew if there was a way to fix it. So, or deal with it, whatever. And again, in my family, we already had mental illness going on. And so it just made it that much more challenging, And as it turns out, I can't really take medicine. There's not a lot of understanding or follow-up or expectations about psychotropic or general depression medication. And one of the biggest stories of my first suicides had to do with medication and the what the medication would do to me that made me feel like I couldn't fight. Because for years I'd been doing it on my own. And so this time came, and not only was it damaging for my self-image and self-worth, now that I'm broken, I've got these problems, I'm going to have to deal with this. I'm turning into my uncle, who is a burden on his family. I just see a bunch of negative stuff, and I realize that this is going to be a long haul, and I'm going to have to deal with within myself. This is something that I'm going to have to carry a lot on my own, because I don't want to drag my family or my loved ones or anyone down with me. So it's like, you have depression, welcome to mental illness. And yeah, it was rough. Those were some rough times. But at the end of the day, I learned a lot in those early years. Mostly a lot of what not to do and how not to be. Because a lot of it I put on myself. I put expectations on myself because no one really told me. No one really told me what it was. I had experienced the negative stuff from my uncle, and then those interactions with him and the rest of my family and society as a whole. But my first reaction to all of this was to hide, was to hopefully take the pills, they would go away. I realized immediately that wasn't going to happen. There was the hope of relief from modern science I found early was just for me, not something that was in the cards. So I internalized, and I would say that's the mistake. So rule number 1, don't keep it to yourself. So if there will be a test at the end, and so that would be, the thing that I would want you to remember from chapter 2 is don't keep it to yourself. Talk about it early, often, and really try to explain how you feel to as many people as will listen. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for today. More to come. Chapter 3 is right around the corner, and chapter 3 we're going to talk about major depressive disorder. That really was the second diagnosis. And then we'll talk about generalized anxiety disorder. Yay! And then finally we'll wrap it up with some PTSD. And when I mean by wrap it up, I mean with my diagnoses and not with the whole thing. I'm not ready to go yet. Anyway, take care. Have a wonderful day. And I'll catch you in chapter 3. 3, yes. All right. Bye.